Um, welcome. Welcome to the monthly meeting of our nonprofit plant-based nutrition organization of Wisconsin, or as we like to call it, PB Now. I'm your host, Terry Lynch. The mission of our nonprofit group is to educate, inspire, and support each other on an evidence-backed, whole plant food-based nutritional path for a healthier, happier life. Our group is open to everyone, those plant-based and those just curious about it. It's meant to be a non-judgmental place to get information, inspiration, and support. If you'd like more information about our group, our upcoming meeting dates, speakers, and resources, or just check out videos of our past meetings, you can Google us at PBNOW. If you'd like more, as we do each time, can I see a show of hands or the thumbs up icon on the bottom of your Zoom screen to show how many of you are currently following a predominantly plant-based lifestyle? Oh, there they go, lots of thumbs. Yeah, that's probably a third of the group, maybe a little bit more. Thank you very much. As we mentioned at the beginning of each meeting, the evidence of the benefits of plant-based nutrition in improving health and quality of life for people of all ages, as published in non-biased medical research, is quite striking. Whether it's improving health through increased energy, weight loss, strengthening our immune system, preventing, slowing, or stopping, or reversing, in some cases, problems like allergies, digestive problems, diabetes, heart disease, and early dementia, or increasing our quality of life by helping us feel better quickly, increasing endurance, improving athletic performance, speeding recovery from exercise, reducing joint pain, clearing thinking, or reducing the physical, emotional, and financial side effects of the illnesses, drugs, and procedures often recommended to treat the conditions plant-based nutrition may help us avoid. The research shows that our bodies do a wonderful job of healing themselves if we stop inadvertently damaging them daily with poor nutrition and start giving them the nutrition they need to heal and function optimally. And it is truly remarkable. Now, let me tell you what's in store for you tonight. We're going to hear from three speakers. We'll hear from our medical director, Dr. Joshua Liberman, when he is through with his patients today, and it looks like he's not quite through yet. We'll also hear from a special guest, Tom Hayes, who will talk about his personal experiences with plant-based nutrition. And after Tom, we'll play a video prepared by our featured speaker, registered dietitian May Tom. And I've got to say, unfortunately, our speaker who was scheduled to speak to us live had something come up, and she has recorded a video, recorded her presentation on video, and I think you're going to enjoy it. It's very, it's got a lot of substance to it, and it's very upbeat. That's about a little over half an hour long. Followed by a short cooking demo that she recorded with her young son. That's kind of delightful. And without her being with us, of course, we're going to have to forego our usual Q&A tonight. But I think you'll enjoy what we've got for you. Tonight's program should end about 7:30, and quite possibly before then. As a reminder, we have meetings nearly every month, usually on the second Thursday of the month at 6 o'clock Central Time. Next month, we're going to hear from Ann and Jane Esselstyn. They're always a lot of fun. If you register on our website or are already registered, you'll receive email reminders of our events as they approach. Last, a quick technical note. During the meeting, everyone but the speakers will be muted, and we ask that you stay muted to avoid background noise and allow everybody to hear the speakers. With that, let's go. Let me take another look here to see if Dr. Liberman has arrived. And I do not see Dr. Liberman yet. So let me introduce our special guest tonight. We were recently, he's a friend of mine. We were recently talking about our plant-based nutrition experiences, and I'm grateful that he's willing to share his personal experiences with the group tonight. I'm happy to welcome attorney Tom Hayes. Tom?
Thank you very much, Terry. Yeah, I appreciate the invitation to address your group on the benefits of plant-based nutrition. And I can only speak from my anecdotal experience, which I truly hope that you all find valuable and inspiring. I hope that my experience is you gain some insight from my experience with plant-based nutrition. So I'm 68 years old. I was a voracious meat eater for my entire life. In 2010, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. 2011, I had a radical prostatectomy performed by Dr. Jacobson at Freighter. Following the surgery, some cancerous tumor cells remained, but luckily they hadn't infiltrated my lymph nodes. Following that, my PSA was checked periodically. Started out every 6 months, and then it became every 3 months to make sure that the tumor cells hadn't become more aggressive. And they, unfortunately, in 2014, they had become more aggressive. And so I had to have radiation therapy. Unfortunately, the radiation therapy did not eradicate the tumor. And you can only have radiation therapy one time. After that, you have to go to more aggressive chemo, hormone type related therapies. Dr. Burfind, my oncologist, became more concerned in late 2016 and warned of the potential need for chemo hormone type therapy to curtail the production of my testosterone, which is the fuel for the tumor. For obvious reasons, I was very resistant to medically screwing around with my hormones and was hesitant to start that type of therapy. But by late 2017, Dr. Burfind was becoming insistent that I commence this type of chemo hormone therapy. And then on some very cold Wisconsin night in late December 2017, actually it was December 27th, 2017, my wife Mimi and I watched a movie on Netflix called What the Health. And it's a very compelling movie about the benefits of eliminating meat and processed sugar from your diet. So I immediately stopped eating meat on December 27th, 2017, and adhered to a plant-based diet. My next appointment with Dr. Burfind was 1 week later, and he wanted me to start the hormone therapy at that time. I told Dr. Burfind about my modified diet and requested that we hold off on the more aggressive hormone therapy until my next 3-month blood test. Dr. Burfind said he couldn't give me 3 months, but he would delay it for 10 weeks. And so for the ensuing 10 weeks, I stuck religiously to my new plant-based diet. When I returned on March 7th to Dr. Burfind, he got my blood test results. He came into the room where I was seated and said, "I can't really explain this to you, Tom, but you have no current therapeutic needs." I didn't need to hear anything else for me to commit to a plant-based diet. I have neither touched nor have I desired or longed for meat ever since. Full disclosure, I did have to begin hormone therapy in late 2023, and I'm still dealing with hormone therapy to this day. While I can only speculate that my modified diet had a positive impact on my cancer management, I am definite when I say that the elimination of meat from my diet and going plant-based is really great for your joint health. I was a competitive squash player for 40 years. For those of you who aren't familiar with squash, it's a lot like handball on steroids. There's lots of start, stop, running, lunging, twisting, bending. And I played in tournaments, which were always held on successive days, Friday through Sunday. I played in a lot of tournaments throughout my life. If you win on Friday, you play on Saturday. And if you win on Saturday, you play Sunday. When you're a kid playing back to back on consecutive days, it's not really a problem physically. But the older you get, the more the lactic acid builds up and the less mobile you become after grueling competitive matches. So when I was playing competitive squash in my 40s and 50s, the reduced mobility attributable to increased lactic acid buildup made me much less competitive. Fast forward to December 27th, 2017, when I eliminated meat and went to plant-based. I had my next doctor's appointment with Dr. Burfine on January 3rd, which was about a week later. And then he gave me my 10 weeks until March 7th to implement my modified diet. In the interim, I played in a squash tournament in Chicago in the middle of February. I hadn't eaten meat for the previous 8 or 9 weeks. I played and won 2 matches on Friday. I woke up Saturday and I felt absolutely fine. I had no mobility issues. I played on Saturday in 2 matches. I won those matches. I woke up Sunday. I felt fine. I had no mobility issues. I lost on Sunday, but it wasn't due to my physical fitness. And then I continued to play competitive squash without on a plant-based diet. I never had any issues with my joints that I had experienced for the previous 15, 20 years. And there's no question that the elimination of meat from my diet enhanced my joint health. The chemo that I've been on for the last couple of years hasn't helped, but I'm still active. But for the elimination of meat from my diet, there's no question in my mind that I'd be much worse off physically than I am currently. At my age, healthy joints is very, very important. So that is my story, and I would definitely encourage everyone who's listening to look into the benefits of a plant-based diet. Thank you, Terry.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks a lot for doing that. It is again, it's we talk about. It's just remarkable what the benefits you can get and how quickly they happen. You said how many weeks from when you started to the first
I
tournament?
quit eating meat December 27th, 2017, and my first match in Chicago was February 16th, 2018. And even more so than the elimination of any therapeutic needs for my cancer, the difference in the way that I responded during that squash tournament and how I responded after that has been the motivating factor for me to continue with plant-based, because I recognize that it has had a remarkable impact on my joints and my overall physical well-being.
Outstanding. Thanks so much, Tom.
Sure.
We're going to go to Dr. Liberman. He is a fellowship-trained cardiologist, president and CEO of Wisconsin Cardiology Associates, and a past president and current trustee of the Wisconsin chapter of the American College of Cardiology. He's a member of the American College of Cardiology's National Nutrition and Lifestyle Work Group, whose membership includes nationally known physicians such as Dr. Dean Ornish, Dr. Neil Bernard, and Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. He's an advocate for the use of plant-based nutrition to help improve heart health, general health, and quality of life, and has seen the benefits of plant-based nutrition in both his personal life and that of his patients. We are fortunate to have him here in Milwaukee and as our PV Now medical director. I'm happy to welcome Dr. Joshua Liberman. Dr. Liberman?
Absolutely. Thank you, Terry. Thanks for the introduction, as always, as usual. And thank you for that little patient vignette. Nothing better than an actual, person telling about their experience and about their success. And that really, I think, brings it home. You know, there's a lot of benefits for plant-based diets, and obviously as a cardiologist, I focus on the heart benefits, but we know that there's benefits for lots of different things. And one thing that I wrote about in a recent newsletter for my practice is that it's really kind of funny to me. Not funny, but it's ironic to me that when I talk to people about how they can get their hearts healthy, sure, that's somewhat motivating for a lot of people, and people are generally can be worried about their heart, but if you tell them that it can prevent cancer, or it can remove, it can reduce the progression of cancer, or even reverse cancer, like, their lives light up and they're like, oh my God, wait a minute, what is this? And it's kind of interesting to me because, if you took all the cancers combined, they don't add up. If you took up all cancers combined and looked at deaths from all cancers combined in the US, heart disease kills more than all cancers combined, right? So we know that plant-based diets are good for the heart. We know that they're good for reducing risk of dying from cancer as well, and progression of cancer. But certainly the population of this country is much more worried about cancer, even though they are much more likely to die of a heart problem. So I think it's important to know that that these diets are also beneficial, as I said, for cancer. And there was a study that came out not that long ago that looked. It was an additional analysis of the Adventist II trial. So what's the Adventist II trial? Basically, it's a research trial looking at Seventh-day Adventists in Southern California, in the Loma Linda area. And the reason that this is a good population to study is because culturally, many of them trend towards veganism or vegetarianism. And the thing is that this is a very tight-knit community, a very geographically kind of localized community, where across the street from them, there are communities that are just regular old Americans eating very, very different diets. But because of the proximity of these communities, the Adventist to neighboring communities, you can make comparisons, right? You can't really make a comparison of a Wisconsin community to a California community, right? Because there's so many things that are different for us. Our lifestyles may be different. Maybe they're a little healthier in California. Maybe they have more outdoor time because it's nicer weather for most of the year. They have different levels of sunlight. So maybe vitamin D. There's just so many differences, right, geographically. And so it's hard to make comparisons, because if you find out that the Wisconsin population, for example, is less healthy than this Adventist population, you don't know whether it's because of their diet or because there's some other factors. But if you can compare to people that are literally basically across the street, it's a lot more impactful in terms of the validity, the external validity of the research. Okay, so getting back to the study, this study looked at 80,000 members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and they looked at people, again, who are vegan versus egg and dairy, vegetarian versus non-vegetarians, and they found that vegetarians have a lower overall cancer risk. So compared to non-vegetarians, vegetarians had a 12% lower risk of all cancers and an 18% lower risk of medium frequency cancers, such as like stomach and thyroid and melanoma and ovarian cancer. So these findings were statistically significant, and so not likely to be due to chance. And for specific cancers, especially the GI tract cancers, which our food comes into obviously direct contact with, there was a statistically significantly lower risk of colorectal cancer, colon cancer, or rectal cancer. 21% lower risk. Stomach cancer was a 45% lower risk. There was a lower risk for lymphomas and lower risk for breast and prostate cancer. And so that's where we get, the relationship to tonight's conversation, obviously. That was vegetarian diets. Vegan diets actually showed the greatest protection. So vegans had the strongest reductions in overall cancer risk, 24% lower risk of all cancers, a whopping 43% lower risk of prostate cancer in younger vegans. So again, it helps the younger you start. So obviously Tom shared with us that he ended up still having to get treated. It could be, though, because he was older when he made the change. And maybe it's when the younger you get, the more impact it can have at reversing prostate cancer. I'll talk about that in a second. So how does it work? Well, maybe it's just the absence of the bad things, right? So processed meat, red meat, we know are linked to increased cancer risk. Increased fiber, we know, helps kind of clean the GI tract and keep it healthy. Also gives you a healthy populations of healthy bacteria. But also maybe there are, phytochemicals, antioxidants, all sorts of different compounds that are in fruits and veggies that just aren't found in chicken or fish or red, or beef or all these kinds of things. So, this is not just the only thing that we've ever seen. This corroborates kind of the line of evidence that we've been seeing that we even know from 20 years ago. Dean Ornish did a study 20 years ago that looked at prostate cancer, and they showed that in early stage prostate cancer, vegan diets could actually reverse prostate cancer. Let me say that again: reverse, not just halt, right? Not just treat, but actually reverse. Vegan diets in Dean Ornish's research have been shown to reduce PSA levels, right? And so obviously PSA, prostate serum antigen, is a marker of prostate cancer risk. And as it increases, it suggests that your prostate, may be harboring something that's not very pleasant in there. And that's also one of the markers that oncologists like Dr. Burfein, Tom's oncologist, monitor over time as they monitor the PSA level. And we know that patients, men with early stage prostate cancer who followed the Ornish lifestyle program showed a decrease in their average PSA levels over a 3-month period compared to a control group that whose PSA levels actually rose. Again, under a microscope, Dr. Ornish's group saw that the prostate cancer cells had slower progression, and actually there was evidence, biochemical evidence of reversal of progression. So we've known for 20 years that this is the case. The earlier you start with a vegan diet, the better. And we know just more recently in this recent study that was published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition that when you do an analysis of a large population of people and compare it to similar other groups, you see a significantly lower risk of multiple different cancers, but certainly specifically the kind of the GI tract cancers. So I'm a heart doctor. I'm obviously worried about the heart. Heart disease kills way more people than cancer kills, but it's a nice ancillary benefit that doing something that's good for your heart will also help lower your risk of cancer. And so with that, I send it back to you, Terry, and appreciate your time. Oh, you're on mute.
Thanks, Chet. Thanks so much for that information, and just to throw in here too, I had prostate cancer, and I went on a plant-based diet, and I reduced my PSA level, but I did send my biopsy material around to a number of pathologists, and there was one out and Dr. Epstein down at Johns Hopkins, who is near the top of the hill, and as far as the prostate cancer pathologist came back and said, you're normally I would say you wouldn't need to do this, but you have a more aggressive type of cancer. So I had a prostatectomy like Tom did, but fortunately nothing's happened after that. But when I started as I say, started the plant-based in earnest, my PSA actually had dropped, and so unfortunately it was an aggressive type 2, but I've been without it and pretty much off all medications ever for most of the time since then. So I'm extremely happy, and I echo Tom's comments about his joints. It was, I think, about a year later that I really noticed my fingers had started to get bad, and that went away. But I've had, virtually no joint problems since then. So, along with many other things, it would take a long time for me to talk about that were positive benefits, and I cannot think of a negative one. And those of you who've been on it, plant-based for a while, you find that your taste buds change too, and the food that we eat, I look forward to. I still have friends for years who keep thinking I'm sacrificing by doing this. I'm not sacrificing. I love this stuff. I love the food. I love the way I feel afterwards. So that's just another little bit, a bit of personal testimony.
Yeah, Terry, if I can interject,
Sure.
one of the reasons that it's so much easier to do plant-based these days is that there are a multitude of options in the marketplace now. Wherever you go, any restaurant, any grocery store, everywhere you go, there's all sorts of wonderful choices of plant-based food that is really good. And that's why I've never missed not eating meat for, what is it now? 14 years or 8 years, I guess. So yeah, it's a completely different dynamic with all the options in the marketplace.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I agree with you. And it doesn't matter if you're traveling or wherever you go, you can, of course, if you go out to eat or you're going to a party or something like that, you can always eat before you go. Once you get there, there's bound to be something that you like to eat. And at the salad bars or the buffets, it's funny, but there's plenty of salad to eat if you want to eat it. Everybody else seems to pass it by, so it's always it's nice to know there's an abundance of the things that we like to eat. With that, let's go to our featured speakers video.
Hello, PB Now.
Yeah.
My name is May Tom. I am so
Great. Here we
excited
go.
to be doing this talk with you tonight. Although not live, I am still happy to be here contributing to the meeting tonight. And my hope and wish is that we would be able to interact live at some point in the near future. Just to give you a little background, today we're going to talk about obviously our love for plants, the mutual love for plants. And as a dietitian, no matter what diet people subscribe to, I always say everyone should be plant-based or plant-forward. So just a little background on me. I went to school at Loma Linda, which is actually one of the blue zones, as the blue zones are areas in the world where they found the most centenarians, people who lived over 100, and Loma Linda was one of the cities that was identified with high concentrations of centenarians, and partially it's because it is a Seventh-day Adventist community. I'm not Adventist, but again, I went to school there, and a lot of good research on vegetarianism and vegan diets is conducted at Loma Linda University. Since graduating from Loma Linda, I have worked at several integrative clinics. I worked at a high-end resort in San Diego. I was the nutrition director there for 7 years, and also recently at Lifetime, which is another health and wellness country club that's nationwide. I was supporting them on a corporate level. So I have a lot of experience in the world of functional medicine and where plants intersect with our health from a functional medicine perspective. So that's the perspective I'm bringing today. So one of the things that I wanted to introduce you to is I am, I guess, biased because I have my own company. I'm not in academia. So I wanted to give that disclaimer. My company is called You May Eat. I do nutrition courses and education. I also represent products, supplements, and other tools, including cooking systems that really support people on their health journey. But today is all about education. And really, the mission behind our company is to give people permission, knowledge, and tools to take charge of their health one meal at a time. I think one of the things that a lot of people think about when they think about plant-based eating is that it's boring, that it's laborious, and really all of those things are not true. It can be fun, easy, exciting, adventurous, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to make it that enjoyable on a day-to-day basis. So one of the things that we think about when we think about plants and what makes them so special and having a plant-forward or plant-based diet is plants have a lot of nutrients beyond just calories. And calories, just so you know the breakdown, calories come from protein, carbs, and fats. But there's a whole slew of nutrition that's not counted in calories, and those are vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytochemicals that tend to in some ways be the like uncharted territory. We have a bunch of research coming out that there's molecules we haven't even identified yet that affect our health, and we call this nutritional dark matter, and it's outer space of nutrition all in our food. But we can say that plants hold a lot of power in affecting not only our health on a day-to-day basis but also our gene expression, and that whole field is called nutrigenomics, which is really powerful. I do a lot of gene testing on my patients. I worked at a clinic that was married to a genomics company, so we did gene testing on everybody, and it's so cool that genes can be turned on and off by food. And so food is very powerful. It's not just medicine, it's information to our cells. And that's why foods like plants can be very powerful in affecting our metabolism on a cellular level. Our mitochondria make energy, and that is required for us to make all things, including hormones, in our body. So if you're looking at someone who doesn't have good hormone balance or is a female heading into menopause, it's that much more important to be eating a really nourishing diet during the times when hormones need as much support as possible. And that's really my area of expertise. I work primarily with women in the 40s, 50s range who are transitioning and heading into the second half of life where menopause is the norm. And how do we support that nutritionally? There are essential minerals that really support hormones, things like magnesium, zinc, that are naturally occurring in plants. Also, a whole array of B vitamins. And today's not a nutritional lecture to go into all of that. Your folate, your B12, biotin, niacin, and not to say you can't get some from animal protein or animal sources of food, but plants really are where they shine. Enhancing detox is another one. We're seeing more and more chronic diseases related to a toxic load on the body, and that can come from poor detoxing or just too many toxins being exposed to the body. So to support just the detox pathways, fiber is a well-known one that is low-hanging fruit that only comes from plants. And the average American barely gets 15. The FDA says try to aim for 20, and I tell people aim for 30 to 40 grams a day. And that's a combination of soluble and insoluble fiber. The joke is no matter how chewy your steak is, it has zero of the types of fiber that we are talking about that help with detoxing. So eating a plant-rich, plant-based diet is really how we get those fibers in unless you're supplementing. And so there's a time and place where supplements are necessary, and I oftentimes recommend supplements. They do need to be high quality, but there's a reason why they're called supplements. They're supposed to be supplemental. All right, next, this is a huge one. We do a lot of gut testing in our private clients and in our group programs, and I can't tell you how many times I see the microbiome, brain and hormone connection, how vitally important that is to our overall health, and we underestimate how powerful those billions of bugs are in our gut and how much they need plants to thrive. And we call that type of food that helps them thrive like prebiotics, if you've heard of that. A lot of prebiotics come from plant-based fibers. And so again, it circles back to how are the plants coming into the body, and are those plants helping to feed our microbiome? Thereby, our microbiome is able to keep us healthy. And this whole area of research is very well documented. If you've never checked out your microbiome health, there's some pretty cool tests out there where you can even get some actionable takeaways on exactly what foods you need to eat to be supporting what bugs down there. And so this is a field, that is really taking off. We know that these gut microbiome also help to make neurotransmitters. 90% of our serotonin is made in the gut, and we think of serotonin being used by the brain. It's used by the gut as well. And blood sugar regulation, if you know anyone who's struggling with diabetes or prediabetes, the microbiome has a lot to do with how well we regulate blood sugar. And that's why GLP-1s exist. They're actually in the gut. They were made in the gut. Estrogen metabolism also has a lot to do with gut health. So again, for females in that 40 to 50 and onwards range, we really want good metabolism. Honestly, any stage of life for a female and a male. Estrogen is very promiscuous. It needs to be detoxed regularly or it can recirculate and cause problems. And then mood, mental clarity, also immune health, all of those rely on a healthy microbiome. And again, plants really help to keep the microbiome healthy. All right, so some pitfalls. I want to talk about this because sometimes you might have heard, oh boy, if you're going to go plant based, you better make sure to be taking supplements. You better be making sure you're getting enough protein. And there are some valid concerns. For a vegan who's been vegan for more than a few years, I am constantly checking blood levels of things like iron and B12. And sometimes we're looking at also things like carnitine. And overall, we just want to make sure that nothing is missing, right? And that's when supplementing might be necessary. There's wrong ways to do any diet, and there's definitely wrong ways to do the vegan or vegetarian diet. So relying on processed foods in any diet is a slippery slope of empty calories that really aren't serving a purpose but filling you up. And so it's what we call empty calories. And that can still happen in a vegetarian-based diet, right? Crackers and cookies can be vegan and vegetarian. Also, there can still be processed fake cheeses and meats that sometimes on a rare occasion, if you really need a tofu hot dog, fine. But if it's a weekly or daily thing, that's when we're starting to see how much of that is real food and how much of it is considered still processed. I don't have all the time to get into adequate protein levels and blood sugar levels, but that's something we do assess. I can tell you when I was vegetarian, there was a point where I was pre-diabetic because a lot of my protein was attached to carbs and I did not process carbs very well, and it's just genetics for me. And so I had to be really strategic with how I dosed my carbs and how I dosed my protein as a vegetarian during those times. And I learned a lot through that process. And so work with a dietitian, work with a healthcare practitioner if you're trying to navigate the nuances of following a diet from a total health optimizing standpoint. Now, this is something I want you to take away. I don't want you to take away just theory. I want you to take away practical application. So some pillars of plant-centric eating that I really want to drive home, I'm constantly preaching this to all my clients and patients and on YouTube, is we really want to look for color diversity because that is a reflection of plant chemicals, if you were, phytochemicals, right? Minerals and vitamins really exist in the colors of the rainbow. So looking for 5 colors on a plate at any given meal is a great rule of thumb to get those phytonutrients, minerals, and vitamins in. Variety, I like to see people eating 10 different kinds of vegetables a day versus 10 cups of broccoli a day. There's a big difference there. So that includes spices, herbs, even herbal teas. And so be creative with getting plant-based foods. It doesn't mean just leafy greens. Abundance, this is the total amount. From a fiber standpoint, we want to aim for 6 to 9 cups of vegetables a day. Again, some people might have digestive issues, and so we have to think about personal level. And then some people cannot tolerate a lot of raw vegetables. The healthy average person, we say half raw, half cooked is a great way to start. But if you have a compromised immune system or a compromised digestive system, you might need to go with more cooked. And then out of all the diets or ways of eating that have been studied, the Mediterranean approach seems to have the most research backing it up. And really, I can direct you to some YouTube videos that I've made about this in more detail, but it's really, by definition, Mediterranean means whole unprocessed carbs, having a good amount of variety in the diet in the plant world, having the leanest, cleanest proteins available, and healthy fats like your olive oils and avocados. So half of the plate being non-starchy vegetables is a great way to go in that Mediterranean style eating. Okay, common objections I hear a lot for people considering going and changing their diet to be more plant-based or altogether going vegan or vegetarian is taste and enjoyment. A lot of people go, that just doesn't taste good, or I get bored. Vegetables are boring. Some people say I'm not a rabbit. Vegetables don't fill me up. They don't satisfy me. Or vegetables upset my stomach. I hear that a lot. Or vegetables take too much to prep and they go bad too quickly before I can even get to them. Or my family doesn't like vegetables, so I'm the only one eating them. And so these are, I would say, obstacles or misconceptions or things that need to be talked about and navigated through, because some of these are just things we grew up hearing and have instilled in ourselves as a belief system. And it's something we get to, again, redirect. So just to highlight, today we want to talk about how to make eating plants fun and interesting, get the variety up, make sure it's satisfying and pleasant, right, to everyone in the family. Let's talk a little bit about nutrition from a cooking perspective. I will say sometimes food doesn't taste good because it's been cooked to death. So think of like your green beans your grandmother fed you that were from a can. I don't know anyone that loves canned green beans, to be honest. Like they're brown and mushy. Or even in the South, they would cook collards for hours and hours until it's just a pile of mush. And so some people, that's comfort food for them. But we know from a nutrition standpoint, overcooking our food to the point where it's mushy, especially plants, we're destroying a lot of the nutrition, and then it might not taste as good, right? So thinking of preserving nutrition also helps to keep flavor and textures intact that are pleasant for us and enjoyable for us. So some enemies of nutrition that we want to avoid are things like peeling. If you buy organic, you don't want to peel because you're taking away not only the peel, but also the layer underneath the peel that is so nutrient dense. Boiling, actually, some people will rather boil than fry, and I understand that logic, but remember, water-soluble vitamins get washed away by water. So I don't love the idea of steaming and blanching things. If you've ever done that, the water that you end up blanching your vegetables in turns a bright color, and then you squeeze out all that water, and then a lot of things get left behind. The other thing with water is you don't want to cut your vegetables and then wash them, and there's exceptions like leeks. It's hard to wash the inside without cutting it open, but in general, we don't want to chop a bunch of cabbage and then go wash it, because now we're washing away some of the nutrition that was in the cells that we broke in the cutting process. High heat, this is a big one that people don't think about, is anything above boiling, we're starting to destroy a lot of the heat sensitive components of plants. Things like air fryers are really popular right now. Instapots are really popular. I'm not saying never ever use those, but think high pressure, which is what an Instapot is, equals high temperature. This is basic physics. And then air fryer, even though you're frying with air, it's still very high heat. So those are things to do sparingly and find alternatives for. And then poor oils or rancid oils, oils that have been destroyed by heat, or just oils that are, I would say, too high on the omega-6s. These are like vegetable oils like corn oil, safflower, sunflower. And it's not to say you can't have those ever, but we just have too much in the American diet, and people are overdosing on these bad oils. I do want to mention part of this setting yourself up for success in eating a plant-based diet is having a clean kitchen and a proper kitchen to serve you so that you can enjoy your time in the kitchen. And that means making sure you're not introducing extra toxins in the kitchen. So avoiding things like BPA, which is all your plastics, and even the BPA free is not so good. Cheap or reactive cookware. There's been a lot of research about the coatings of cookware, the metals, and the reactivity of those metals in cookware. Takeout containers, all the wrapping of your burgers that has that silkiness to it. These are things that might be introducing some extra things that don't help make our bodies healthier. They can actually be contributing to the toxic load. I talked about cooking methods a little bit, about high heat. And then really the benefit of being in the kitchen when you do clean things up is you are in control of the types of ingredients you're using, the types of oil you're cooking, the types of cooking methods, the types of cookware and the storageware. So returning to the kitchen, I think, is essential, and setting yourself up for the best, cleanest, most prepped kitchen is honestly, I would say, just a chef needs a good knife. A raw chef needs a good blender. I would say any plant-based person needs the basic appliances and the cleanest possible appliances to make plant-based eating enjoyable, safe, and clean. I do recommend a cooking system that I won't get into today, but you'll have an opportunity to inquire about it later at the end here, and we can connect. I am huge on advocating for one-pot meals. So that could be like a salad, a stir fry, a soup, a casserole. Think of making your life simpler and getting a lot more variety in one place. Most of us don't have time to be cooking a 3-course meal every day. And as long as you're okay with your food being mixed together, one-pot meals are fantastic ways to get a lot of plants into your life. And be creative, right? There's even dump meals where you can freeze bags full of food that you can dump into a crock pot if you're short on time. And then smoothies. People don't always think of smoothies as a way to incorporate vegetables, but it's a great way to sneak in herbs or leftover cucumber, carrots. I'll just put spinach or kale or salad mix in. That's a great way to sneak it in. Flavor boosters, these are things that really enhance flavor and nutrition that come from the plant world that can really spice things up, and I think we overlook them. Historically, in most cultures, these are abundant, and so look at ethnic foods and you'll see this everywhere, but think of like your pestos, Your hummuses, your fermented foods as well are huge flavor enhancers like kimchi and sauerkraut, right? Even microgreens are huge on flavor and nutrition, and they're just little garnishes that you can add. And there's even companies where you can make your own, grow your own microgreens in a very easy way. I always have a bed of microgreens growing, so it can be very fun for the whole family to be growing herbs and spices and microgreens. Tahini-based dressings, like a green goddess dressing, always so much fun to add chimichurri sauce. Think of ways to add the vegetables into your sauces. Today's not a meal prepping course. Maybe one day I'll make a workshop, but I do always tell people no one has time to cook from scratch every night unless you really enjoy cooking and you are retired and have lots of time on your hands. But I would always look at the full week, and usually there's 2 days a week where you have maybe less than 20 minutes to cook. Maybe there's 2 days a week where you have time to maybe heat up some leftovers and then cook one component fresh, and that might be more of like a 30 to 45 minute prep. And then there's days where you have all the time in the world, you can make pasta from scratch, right? And that might just be once a week. And that once a week, you might consider prepping several meals, right, for the week, where like setting up your fridge almost like a salad bar. I love doing that, where I'll slice a bunch of veggies that can last a couple days. I'll make a dressing, I'll make a protein, and then I can mix and match that throughout the week and get some really good meals that I didn't have to make on the spot. It's more like an assembly meal. So think about, again, one day where you'd have more time to meal prep or cook from scratch, a couple days a week where you have a quick assembly and maybe one thing fresh, and then lots of repurposing of leftovers and lots of maybe, again, salad bar-like ingredients at home. Batch cooking and freezing is another option. I will freeze a big batch of pesto in ice cube trays and pop out my pesto and add it to soups right when I'm done reheating a soup. And soups are great also to freeze. You can pop them out of silicone squares that are like 2-cup silicone squares. And every time you reheat a soup, add some fresh herbs in, or cut up some fresh mirepoix, which is like your onion, carrot, celery mix. And so you can refresh these freezer meals that you batch cooked a while ago, and those are great for nights where you don't have a lot of time. Okay, lastly, I did want to introduce an opportunity for you to learn more from me. I am offering a free cooking show that's sponsored by the cooking system that I work with in my company, and I'll give you a QR code and you're welcome to apply for a few of the spots that we have for October. And to leave you also with a really fun video, I did pre-record a really fun salad making video I filmed with my youngest son, Noah, so I really hope you enjoy that. I hope you're inspired to add some more plants into your life. So, welcome to our cooking demo. We are going to show you an amazing way to get lots of vegetables in your life. Really, salads are fantastic because you can get a lot of variety in one meal. And you know what they say? They say a salad a day keeps the doctor away. Did you know that? Yeah. So, we're going to show you how to make a really great salad. The ingredients we have today on hand are cucumber. This is an English cucumber. Noah likes to eat these just straight, like right. This is a golden beet. And notice we did not peel this beet, because when you buy organic and you scrub it really well, you actually are preserving nutrition when you eat all of the vegetable, including the skin and what's underneath the skin. Right underneath the skin is a lot of nutrition concentrated in that first layer. So when we peel,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
I didn't know that there was gold.
Yeah, this is a golden beet, and then right underneath the peel, there's an extra layer of nutrition. So when we peel, we end up peeling that away, and peeling takes time, right? So we save time by leaving the peel on. English cucumber, I like English because the skin is not waxed. And then we also have mommy's favorite color, purple cabbage. Anytime you can eat purple, it's really good for your brain. The phytonutrients, different colors equals different phytonutrients, and the phytonutrient in purple, anthocyanidins, these are very good for your brain. So we want to have lots of purple in our life. So we're using a really helpful appliance called the Salad Master Machine. If you want to learn more about this, you can reach out to me, because I actually teach with this exclusively, and we actually do private cooking demos. Sponsored by Salad Master. But anyhow, what we're going to do, this food processor comes with 5 different cones, so it makes all different shapes. This is like a shoestring cut, slicer, very fine grating, waffler, and then a french fry cut. But we're gonna start with a spinach base. So we got some organic spinach.
Yeah.
Yes. Spinach is a good source of what vitamin or mineral? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Iron.
Iron.
Yes. Spinach is a good source of iron, but in order for us to absorb iron from spinach, because it's in a form called non-heme, which is not as absorbable, we need to pair iron-rich plant foods like spinach with vitamin C-rich foods. Do you know what foods have vitamin C in them, Noah? Well, lemons have vitamin C, so we're gonna put lemon in the dressing, and also don't eat all of these. I know you want to. Little mandarin, clementine oranges that we peeled, so we're gonna put that on top of our
we
salad.
have this
You
too.
can just have. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna throw those on there, and then. One of the secret formulas of eating healthy salads is 5 colors. You want 5 different colors in your salad to know you're getting a variety of nutrition, which is really important for your microbiome, your gut. So we're getting green, a light
Orange.
green, orange, that's 3 colors, purple is 4, and golden beets have their own color, kind of like yellow. That's technically 5, right? Pretty cool. Okay, that's perfect.
Lemon is yellow.
Lemon is yellow. You're right. Yes, lemon
That's
is yellow.
6.
Now, it's important, Noah, you're going to help me with this part, but no touching this part, right? Okay, so we're going to cut cabbage first. And when you cut cabbage fresh, you can always buy a coleslaw mix if you don't have a machine like this, but when you cut it fresh, you do have a lot more nutrition when you freshly cut your vegetables. And you never really want to, if you can help it, you never want to wash your vegetables after they've been cut, because now you're using all the water and it washes away all the water-soluble vitamins in your plants. So we want to try to keep things as fresh as possible whenever possible. Eating the core of cabbage helps you digest cabbage. So we're actually going to switch cones. Oops. And okay, you can have one more. Grate the cabbage core straight in. All right. So I love having textures in salad as well as color. So the cabbage adds a crunch and it adds sulfur to this salad. Anything in the sulfur family is kind of stinky, like cabbage family vegetables are kind of stinky, but sulfur is really important for the production of a really important antioxidant called glutathione. Can you say glutathione?
Go to fire.
Okay, good. Now, we're gonna do this one. Hey, are you eating on the job? Oh my goodness. All right, y'all see that? That's some really pretty light green we're getting. Technically, cucumber is a fruit because it has seeds, but we count it in the vegetable family, just like tomatoes. And people go, well, is potato a vegetable? Technically, it's a vegetable, but it's counted in the carb family from a nutrition standpoint. So try to get most of your veggies non-starchy, but starchy vegetables have their place, like yams and potatoes and peas and corn and hard squashes. So you can cut yourself on this device, but it's way safer than a mandolin. As long as fingers don't ever go down, you'll never cut yourself. So notice I'm using kind of the palm of my hand to push the vegetable down.
Okay.
Yes, it's gonna be beautiful.
Ow.
Oh yes, you like it? And notice how the peel ends up on the tips. So you're not really getting a mouthful of peel. For anyone who says, I don't like beets because they taste like dirt. Well, try them raw, because raw beets taste way different. They're crunchy and sweet, right, Noah? You could prep your vegetables with this machine ahead of time and assemble healthy salads all week long. Cut vegetables like this will last in the fridge at least 3 days, maybe 4, depending on the vegetable. So you could technically shred them all in separate containers. And then you'd have vegetables that you could sprinkle into a
This
salad.
looks like apple.
It does. Yes, it's a beautiful color. Let's show everyone what colors we have. Look at that. We've got this beautiful rainbow of color going on. Isn't that beautiful? Wow, someone's gonna get really lucky eating this. Now, oh, you know what I wanna do, Noah? I wanna add a little bit of lemon zest because the essential oils from lemon, they smell so good. And did you know a lot of the vitamin C is in the white part of the lemon? So we're just gonna grate a little bit of the peel. We call that the zest. And just get some of those beautiful essential oils in. Good. Not too much of the white part because the white part is a little bitter. And there are people that are super sensitive to bitter. But bitter is actually one of our 5 tastes. So we want to include some bitter in our life as much as you could tolerate without feeling like it's a turnoff, right? No? Arugula is a little bitter. Broccoli and kale can be found as bitter. Okay, beautiful. And then I'm going to stick my hand inside to get all that beautiful zest. Oh, smell that. Refreshing. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Okay, next I think we're gonna do some walnuts. Walnuts have omega-3s, which are really helpful for the brain. And they do look like a brain actually, and that is no coincidence. Right, Noah?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, you help me with your job of wiping. And I'm gonna just chop them in this machine, in the hopper back here, so that I don't have to waste time chopping on a cutting board. All right, so we're gonna chop these on. Oh, okay.
They look
Oh,
so
yeah.
satisfying.
Yeah, it is satisfying. Okay, keep going. You're doing great. You're doing great. Takes a little practice. Oh, yeah.
The walnuts are hot.
Well, yeah. So what I do is I'm taking a salsa jar, and I took the label off. But I like salsa jars because they're not too deep and they're really wide, so it's easy to wash because dressing is obviously oil-based a lot of times, and so getting in there and cleaning it out can be tedious. This vinaigrette is the base for all of my vinaigrettes. We usually use some kind of vinegar. I like vinegar and lemon, and sometimes I use both because the lemon just has such a great taste to it. So I'm going to mix and match the acids today. We've got a beautiful extra virgin olive oil. As you know, olive oil is a source of healthy fat called monounsaturated fat. And extra virgin means it's very delicate. It's the first pressing of that olive. So ideally, you're not heating this because it is more delicate than other oils. There are certain olive oils that are tolerant to heat, but they have a much lower acidity, and it would say on the bottle like okay to use for cooking. Make sure your olive oils are not blends with vegetable oils. And then we've got some organic honey as well. This is organic mustard. This mustard is meant to emulsify the oil and the liquid portions of this dressing. So here we go. We're gonna not measure because we do this so often, but you're gonna use about, I would say, a teaspoon of mustard for,
Ew.
it looks ew, but it tastes good, trust me. We're gonna use, this is apple cider vinegar with the mother, so has some sediment in the bottom there. That's normal. Don't be alarmed. All right, and we're gonna do about a 1/4 cup of each of both the lemon and the apple cider vinegar. Next, we're gonna do a squirt of honey. You love honey on your Greek yogurt, don't you, buddy? So that's probably about a teaspoon also. And then the ratio of acid to oil, I like to just use a visual and do 1 to 1. So 1 part oil, 1 part vinegar. A lot of places, if you go and learn from a culinary school, they're doing like 4 to 1 or 2 to 1 oil to vinegar. But I find that ends up being very oily, and I like acid. I like that tartness of my dressings. So notice that we did a little over, but pretty much 1 to 1, right, Noah? You can see that. And now we're gonna shake it up. All right, shake it real good, Noah. So I usually like to shake it right before serving as well. The biggest thing with dressing a salad, which I'm going to save this for a Bible study dinner tonight, but I usually like to dress my salad right before I serve so that it doesn't start oozing liquids, especially if you have something really watery like cucumbers. It's gonna start getting soggy really fast. So the trick to dressing a salad is to dress the bowl, and that way the surface area touching the oil, there's a lot more surface area versus just pouring it down the middle and having it pool at the bottom. You can always add more dressing. You can't take dressing out. And because oil-based, this is calorie dense, you know, oil is pure fat, and so we're not afraid of fat, but we don't want a dripping oily salad, right, Noah? We want a perfectly dressed salad. So there you have it. This is enough to feed probably at least 10 people, maybe more. And I always say make one meal a day, a salad or a bowl or a stir fry or something that has the opportunity for you to get as much variety in one meal as possible when it comes to vegetables. Bon appetit. We'll let you know how this tastes. You want to say anything to end?
Thanks for watching.
See you soon.
Well, that's it, everybody. Yeah, you'll notice there was oil in there at the end, and I know some of us aren't big on oil, but she added that, and I did ask her to add her information about her what she does. So, and she had no problem doing that. So, I will mention here too, our next monthly meeting will be Thursday, November 13th, 6 o'clock Central Time. Our featured speakers will be Ann and Jane Esselstyn. They're always a lot of fun. They have great information and ideas. And that's going to be just a couple of weeks, I think, before Thanksgiving. So you're going to have some ideas there. If you'd like to receive notice of this and other upcoming PBNOW events and are not currently on our list, just Google us at PBNOW, where you can subscribe and receive email notice of our upcoming events. And if you'd like to review this meeting or check out some of our past meetings, search for us on YouTube under PBNOW and video. And you can go back and watch entire talks or just skim through the parts of each presentation might be of particular interest to you. This meeting should be up, I would hope, within a week or so. Thanks again to Dr. Josh Lieberman, to Tom Hayes, and May Tom for sharing their valuable time and knowledge with us tonight. And thanks to all of you for coming tonight. Hope to see you next time.